So, all right, I think everything's turned on. Good. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Early Care Connection. I'm Izzy Greenberg. Today, we have our resident panel of experts, Meryl Gay from the Connecticut Early Childhood Alliance, and very shortly, we will have Ava Bermudez-Zimmerman from Child Care for CT. We are joined this morning by Coralie Santana, who is the Policy and Advocacy Strategist for the Connecticut Project Action Fund. And she will be going over, I know it's the day before Election Day, and she's going to be going over the constitutional amendment that's on the ballot. A few weeks ago, the Secretary of State did touch on this, but it's a funny one that really affects folks here. And so we wanted to make sure everyone understood. The language is funny, and we wanted to make sure everyone understood what they're actually voting for. So we're going to have Coralie go over that for you all, and then maybe a few quick updates, but today's a fast one. We may have extra time left over, and so if you want, you could go early vote, or you could just take a little time to yourself. First, I just want to say that last week's call, for anyone who missed it or anyone who missed the announcement, because it was a listening session for the Office of Early Childhood on Care for Kids, we wanted folks to be able to speak candidly, and so promised on the front end that we would not share the recording so that people could feel free to speak freely. And so if you aren't seeing the recording from last week, that's why we will not be sharing that recording out. The recording was shared as promised with the Office of Early Childhood, along with everyone's comments, and we were close to 300 by the end, which is fantastic. And a number of you were able to give a verbal testimony and give your comments that way as well. So hopefully that's all very helpful to the Office of Early Childhood in thinking through Care for Kids. So thank you to everyone who participated last week. And as a reminder, we are also not going to have a call next week in honor of Veterans Day. So you have that week off for reflection or however you mark that day. Okay, let's get moving on. Coralie Santana, welcome here. She is the Policy and Advocacy Strategist with the Connecticut Project Action Fund, and she's here to explain to us the constitutional amendment, which will be on the ballot tomorrow, and has been if you've done earlier absentee voting, which will allow the legislature to take up absentee voting for all. Coralie, you are muted, but you can unmute yourself, and we'd love to welcome you.
Thank you so much, Izzy, for inviting me on today. I am trying to share my screen. I think it is up. If I could get the presentation view on this.
It looks like it's loading.
Yes.
There we go.
And so here we are. So good morning. As Izzy said, my name is Coralie Santana. I am the Policy and Advocacy Strategist with the Connecticut Project Action Fund. You have seen me before on Early Care Connection, on all things related to child care and early childhood education. The other issue area that I focus on in terms of our campaigns is democracy. And this year we have taken on a campaign to make people aware of the ballot question and hopefully encourage folks to vote yes. What we've learned is once people understand the question, understand what it means, that generally folks of all political backgrounds can be supportive of the measure. And so I will explain a little bit on the question. I won't give you the Secretary of State's presentation, but it's certainly a lot of it is based off of that. So, in English and Spanish, the question will read, shall the Constitution of the state be amended to permit the General Assembly to allow each voter to vote by absentee ballot? Now, I'm obviously not going to read in Spanish, but this means it's the same process that we went through to get early voting in Connecticut. Early voting. This is the first presidential election that we have early voting. A lot of people, over 700,000 people early voted in Connecticut. Unfortunately, early voting ended yesterday. There is no early voting today.
Oh, all right. So never mind. I take it back. Don't go vote today. My apologies.
It's okay. And the reason for that is because the town clerks and the registrars need today to prepare for election day. And so there is no early voting today, but you can vote tomorrow from the hours of 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you are in line by 8 p.m., please stay in line. You are still able to vote, even if it's 8:05, because you were in line, and that is your right. Now, a couple of important things about the question and filling out your ballot. If you haven't voted already, you have to make sure that you circle in and the whole entire circle for either whomever you're voting for and the questions. Now, there may be more than one question on your ballot, depending on what town you live in. You can get a sample ballot at myvote.ct.gov for your town so that you can kind of go in prepared if you haven't voted already. But essentially, you have to look at the top of the ballot, you have to look at the side of the ballot, you have to flip it over just to make sure where your question might be, because a lot of people can miss it. Now that we've gone over that, it's important to understand what this will do, what changes will make. So voting on election day is easy for many, but not for all. And a yes vote would give power to Connecticut voters by helping ensure that any voter who is willing to undertake voting, that responsibility that they have, can make their voices heard, even if they can't make it to their polling location on a specific day during specific hours. Early voting is a choice. We want to give people the choice to either vote early if they prefer, vote on election day if that's what they'd like to do, or vote by absentee ballot or by mail, as it's commonly known. Right now in Connecticut, you can vote by absentee ballot only for 5 specified reasons: illness, military service, you are away. So if you're a college student and you are away at your college and you're registered to vote in your town, you can request an absentee ballot. You have a disability, and I'm missing, but the point is, you have to have a reason to be able to request a ballot now. What this amendment will do is remove the need for a reason. Just anybody who wants to can request an absentee ballot. Now, this doesn't mean that if this passes tomorrow, automatically anybody can request an absentee ballot. It just means there are no immediate changes. It just means that the legislature will be able to open up our state constitution and write out a new process for how this will work in Connecticut. And so we will have an opportunity, just like we do for early care, to have public hearings, to share our stories, to share how election day has gone in your particular municipality or what your experience has been. I know that you all work with families, right? And so you know that as a parent, it's very hard to get to do anything outside of your regular routine. And so this amendment, if this change happens, will make it easier for working families, for you all who are working tirelessly, right, caring for our children, for people with disabilities who may have not be totally disabled, right? The reason that this is confusing is because people don't understand if they're eligible to vote absentee, and sometimes that's discouraging. You may have a disability that isn't physical, it might be mental, it might be depression, it might, whatever the thing is. And so we believe that every voter who is eligible to vote should be able to cast their vote in the way that is most convenient. And so that is kind of the end of the presentation. It's very brief. I don't know, Izzy, if you want to open it up to questions, which I am happy to answer as best possible. But I really encourage you to, one, if you have not voted, please do vote, right? There are so many issues on the ballot. because whomever you vote for, regardless of who you vote for, those people who get elected will have decision-making power over the issues that we care about. For us, it happens to be early childhood education and democracy for me, but that is super important. It is super important to make our voices heard, and your vote is your voice, and you should absolutely exercise your right to vote. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Coralise. There are no hands up yet and no questions yet, but I have one. My understanding about this is that people voting yes doesn't automatically make no excuse absentee voting go into law. It enables the legislature to take this up as an issue.
Right.
Is there a wide enough agreement within the legislature that this is an issue they want to take up, that if we vote yes and give them the authority to do that, that it's actually likely to pass in the next session?
Yeah. So we can talk a little bit about political will, right? It took two legislatures, so two different classes of legislators, to get this on the ballot for voters to decide. If voters decide that they want this, that the majority of voters vote yes, it is a clear mandate to the legislature to do this. It's not a maybe, it's not like they will have to take this up. The open question is how it all ends up looking, right? With early voting now in place, absentee voting, how the process looks, how the clerks handle the ballot, whatever the budget question is. And in my conversations with legislators who supported the amendment getting on the ballot, who are now up for re-election, should those folks be re-elected, they will work tirelessly to make sure that that mandate from voters is followed.
Okay. And so you think that this is something that would be passed? That you think it's likely for this to be passed in this next legislative session? Based
on the conversations that we've had with voters, we feel really good. Obviously, nothing is off the table till polls close at 8 p.m. tomorrow and the votes are counted. But yes, they would definitely take it up, and we will be advocating as a Connecticut Project Action Fund with all of our partners and coalition members for a system that works for voters.
All right. We've got a couple hands up. Meryl, I'm going to go to you first.
Okay, so I just wanted to put this in terms of family child care provider who has kids from early in the morning until later in the evening. Parents frequently pick family child care providers because they're a little bit more flexible about pickup times, things like that. Right now, if you are taking care of children in the community where you live, which is probably the case, you are not allowed to get an absentee ballot to vote, even if you know that it's going to be difficult to get to the polls, because I've got kids from early in the morning until, mom gets off second shift or something like that. And so technically it's illegal for you to use an absentee ballot now, even if you know you can't get to the polls. But that's because the law says if you are you can only get it if you're going to be out of town all day. Early voting helps, but we can also make it easier by using just no excuse absentee ballots like many other states already have. The reason this has to be a constitutional amendment is that our state constitution said voting was on election day. Originally, we had one of the most restrictive state constitutions as far as voting. The early voting was sort of a first step, and now we're going to the second step. But this is a way to make it more convenient for people who are doing important things like taking care of children all day, to be able to make sure they can vote.
Yeah, no, that's a great reminder. And Shannon is wondering, is there any legislation, proposed legislation, to change the voting day to a Saturday? It can be challenging to get there during the week. Thank you for all you do. Go ahead.
There's a federal law that says election day is the first Tuesday of the presidential elections, are the first Tuesday. And if we start changing it to other days for other kinds of elections, it's just going to lead to confusion.
Because
But-
the federal one has to stick, you're
Yeah.
saying?
But we did have early voting. We have 14 days of early voting for presidential. So that started on October 21st. We had 2 weekends. I voted on a Saturday, actually, that we could have gone to the, usually it's town hall, but every town is different. Go to your early voting location, and you had Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. to vote early in person with early voting. So that was something that we were able to accomplish. Weekends were really important to a lot of people. And to Meryl's point, Connecticut is behind, right? There are 35 other states, including DC and conservative states like Florida and Arizona, who already have absentee voting for everybody, regardless of a circumstance or reason. And so we should get into alignment with other states.
Thanks, Corliss. Let me look. Oh, wait, one question just came up. Early voting, as we've had this election, is different from absentee voting. Will the constitutional amendment include early voting or only absentee?
No, so we already have early voting. Early voting will stay. And we will then also have the option to do absentee voting.
Got it. Thank you. That's it for questions. I know we've a little bit, and so don't want to take up too much of folks' time. You've had chances to ask questions. You're certainly welcome to put a hand up or put a question in the Q&A. But we do have a few other things to go over, so I think we're good on this one. Thank you so much, Corliss.
Thank you all. Thank you all for all your questions.
There's some thank yous in the chat as well, so appreciative for your time this morning. Okay, Meryl, did you have any announcements that you wanted to share this morning?
Just that if you want to offer any comments to OEC about Care for Kids and things they could do to make that work better, I'm looking for the link now to post. But they've done their outreach sessions, but my understanding is they're still accepting written comments. So I'm looking for that right now.
Sounds good. And then the things that I wanted to share with you folks were, let's see, we've got the Take the Vote Childcare Pledge, which I've just put into the chat. It is there in English, and there's also a link to it in Spanish. Let's see. Vanessa is announcing the Early Childhood Alliance November meeting, which is this Thursday in Rocky Hill, and you can click the link or email her at vanessa@cteca.org if you'd like to attend. I'm putting 2 other links in the chat for folks to have. First is the RSVP to Clarissa's Battle, which is November 16th. There will be a movie showing of this really interesting film. We're also going to be sharing out a link to that movie. So if you can't spare that much time on a weekend afternoon, you are welcome to watch the movie on your own time and just come for the panel discussion. We've got a number of really interesting panelists there, including Clarissa Duthard, who is the protagonist of the main character of this film and the person who really worked hard to transform childcare in her part of California. So just want to mark the date for that, November 16th. And I'm going to share the RSVP link for that. But also another thing I wanted to share with folks, if you're nerdy like me and you like to listen to policy podcasts, I thought the Wall Street Journal podcast on childcare on the ballot in Texas. This was Friday's edition of it. It really talked about the economic argument for childcare, and I think laid it out very clearly in a way that folks might be interested in hearing. What they're trying to do in Texas is different than what we would do here in Connecticut, I think. But I liked the way they described the problem. And so just wanted to share that with you. It's a not very long, 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the most. Good to listen to on a drive. And let me see, there's a couple comments here. Meryl, did you have anything else to go over before we wrap up?
I'm still trying to get the website to work well so that I could, I mean, I don't know why it's frozen right now and I can't get to the part that I wanted to share.
Okay, well, we can also share that out on the ECE listserv
Yep.
if that's all right.
Yep.
And I'm just quickly running Maria Reyes' comment through Google Translate for you all, so you can see what she said if you're not a Spanish reader. But she's just letting folks know that she's the president of the Children's Council and providers from Waterbury, Meriden, and Danbury, and have been knocking on doors all weekend and supporting everyone, and it was a success. So lots of good feedback from voters. She's already cast her vote and wants to just reiterate that educators here go out and cast your votes tomorrow. So thank you so much for those comments. Okay, I think we're done. We got it to a half hour today, and we have next week off for veterans in honor of Veterans Day. So we will be back the following week after that. Let me look at that date just so I can be clear about it. November 18th. And we have two competing things that we're trying to figure out which one we can fit in for the 18th, but either way, it's going to be a good one. All right, have a great election day. I hope that whatever is going on in your communities, that it's peaceful and empowering, and that, you know, you're supporting your families and feeling supported from them as we move into whatever this next chapter will be. So thank you all for this incredible community, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. All right, have a good one. Thanks, guys.